Welcome to a special edition of the South Texas Business Podcast, presented by Rock Engineering and Testing. In this episode, we are joined by Jim Perschbach, President and CEO of Port San Antonio.
Y'all ever been to a gaming competition? Paco wouldn't let me put up some of our medal shows, but he let me put up a gaming competition. This we hosted. It was the first live in-person gaming competition in this country in 2 years, and if you haven't seen it, the team on the right, as you look at it, was the visiting team. When they came out to be announced, they just read their names. It was very polite. Then Leo, you'll remember this, the whole room went dark, lasers went off, sirens blasted, the screens were showing these kids. There were 3,500 people in there watching these kids. Those kids that you see up there, all they do for a living is play video games. And I am told that a bench warmer on one of these teams makes north of $30,000 a month just for playing video games. The other thing people know us for, they know us for what's going on with airplanes, they know us for what's going on with engines. Nobody wants to hear me talk about that except to say I'm George Clooney amongst airplane people. What we really do is 4 years ago we launched this strategy. What we said is we're going to create people to opportunities. All that means is we wanted to bring a whole lot of people down to our campus. And there was a reason for that. The reason is that people don't realize what is going on in San Antonio. I get so tired when I pick up the paper and people say there's no tech in San Antonio, there's no big job growth. On that campus that we have, 15, almost 16,000 people, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that is going on, but people just outside the fences don't know what's going on. The second reason we wanted to do this, and you see that connecting employers to educators, one of the worst things ever happened to me was right after I got this job. I was out and I was speaking to one of the neighborhood associations, and those are absolutely wonderful people. And we were talking about some of the activities we have on our campus and some of the growth that we wanted to have. And right after, one of the women from the neighborhood association came up to me and she said, "Jim, you're doing the wrong thing." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "None of those jobs are jobs for the people from our community. We can't do that, our kids can't do it. You're just creating jobs for outsiders." And you know what broke my heart about that? It wasn't just that there are an awful lot of activities going on our campus that were started by people from the community. It was that message gets out and gets in front of the kids. That message goes to the kids and say, you can't do whatever you want to do. And the last thing, connecting buyers and sellers. I could bore you to death with this, but I'm going to tell you one thing I learned 20 years in the defense industry. We have a completely broken defense acquisition model. The hardest customer to sell to is the federal government because the federal government only buys from the same 5 or 6 people. And so what we said is how can we create an environment that allows non-traditional contractors to get in front of this big market? And so what did we do? Well, people laughed at us when we said we were going to start building a whole lot of stuff. We built and fully leased 680,000 square feet of new facilities. This building, the first one we built, it's got Lockheed, it's got Northrop in it, but you see that name on the bottom there, CNF Technologies? About 20 years ago, Fred Ramirez was working over at Kelly Air Force Base. He will never, ever tell you what he was doing. You probably don't want to know what he was doing. His wife was teaching 6th grade up in Edgewood. And Fred said, you know, I can do a lot of amazing things, but I can't balance a checkbook and I really can't talk to people. So he asked Roxanne to drop what she was doing and go and help him run that company. Fast forward about 20 years, 17 years, that little company is one of the fastest growing cyber companies anywhere on this planet. They have part of a $1 billion contract with Air Force Research Laboratory. What you are looking at in that building is their primary engineering laboratory for the entire United States. They have opened offices up in the National Capital Region, means Washington, D.C., and Colorado Springs. And it is local people, truly a mom and pop company. In fact, they just let their son take over that business. This is the second building we built, the Tech 2 building. It's 5 stories, it's 180,000 square feet, give or take, as the real estate agents say. The challenge is, we thought we were going to build that building and have some extra space. We have completely leased that building, and it hasn't even opened yet. And then, of course, we built this thing. That is a $70 million entertainment center. And people laughed at us for building that. Yeah, you should clap for it. In that time, we have added over 5,000 jobs. I think, Paco, it's about 5,700 jobs in the past 4.5 years. And we've done that, and I will never, ever say that incentives are a bad thing. But of the jobs we have added on our campus, there's only 2 companies that received any incentives. And the total of those incentive packages was about $1 million. We have about 15,600 people on the campus. In 2018, the comptroller said that our economic value to this community is about $5.6 billion a year. And in that time, we've added all these thousands of jobs in headquarters. We're asking the state to take another look at it, but we expect it to be well north of $6 billion a year. What I haven't put on there is a whole bunch of other boring stuff, because this is what I really want to talk about. Paco said I can't talk about this. That's Papa Roach rocking out. So the most important thing, and the next stage that we're moving into, is how do we connect up our campus with the rest of the community? And I'm going to show you the only boring slide I'm ever going to show people. It's this. The city was kind enough to put us into the bond package, and thank you all for voting for that bond package. It was absolutely brilliant. Just to fix up the streets on our campus will cost about $30 million. The city bond package gives us about $15 million. What we want to do is not just fix the streets on our campus, and you can see those major connectors coming in, but we've got some wonderful communities right around us. There's a street called General McMullen, which goes straight up into Thompson neighborhood, and we are going to find a way. It's going to cost a lot of money, but we are going to find a way, and you see that yellow arrow going north, so that what we are doing on our campus absolutely intersects with the Thompson neighborhood. A little bit harder than that, you see that yellow arrow coming off to the right there and going down into Quintana. You talk about connecting communities. Quintana is separated from the rest of our campus by a massive Union Pacific switching yard. So what we want to see, I'm supposed to say just pedestrian bridge, but I don't think small. We want a pedestrian and traffic bridge that goes straight over into Quintana so that those folks are connected up. You've seen the wonderful work that has happened in this city because of the investment corridors built around the Pearl, around Southtown, around other places. Imagine what would happen for the people in our community if we built that same type of investment corridor, not just around the port, around Brooks, around other areas where people actually live, so that we can start to drive the value into the communities, not to force people out of their homes, but to let them economically participate with what we're doing. And what we are doing is this. That's the campus plan that we're going to build over the next 15 years. It's actually going to be 10 years because I don't have long left on this planet, but I tell people it's 15 years. A gentleman I know who's a retired Disney Imagineer drew that for us, and he purposely drew it in such a way that you can't build because we didn't want any of this to be prescriptive. And let me hop down and tell you what you're looking at. Down here on this lower level is a US DoD complex. It is not just cyber operations and security operations, but it is the home for all the information warfare and all the national security. And that bridge that connects across is not just a bridge that physically connects people, but on the other side, what you have is a place for the commercial sector, for the academic sector, for the people sector, so that you can have that integration of the commercial sector into the defense sector and into the public sector, where it absolutely connects. We were very pleased. The Israelis came to see us this morning, and when they saw that bridge, they said, well, that's amazing. You stole that from us, because every one of our tech development complexes has one of those bridges going across. What this campus does, and my good friend Paco told me I can no longer call it Shades of Gray, because apparently that's some movie I've never seen. Everything up here we want the public to intersect with. It's not classified, it's not restricted. Come there, have a concert, buy a meal, have a good time. We want people to come in. And as you move in this direction, it becomes more and more restricted. Sometimes it's just an office building, and you can't normally walk into somebody's office building. Sometimes it's an office building with a fake name on the wall and maybe a nasty-looking guard in the front. Sometimes it's actually a military building. But what that does is that allows talent and technology to move through this permeable barrier that we have created in our government sector. If that works, and it's already proving on our campus that it works, what you have created is an opportunity for non-traditional defense contractors to come in and provide solutions. I'll give you one example. On our campus, there is a 72-foot tall robot. It has a 20-kilowatt laser attached to its arm. Y'all have seen the Frost Bank building downtown, right? That Bart Simpson haircut? In theory, from where it sits on our campus, we could give it a haircut. But it's not a directed energy weapon. Well, it is a directed energy weapon, but what it does, the way you take the paint off of an airplane right now is you send about 30 people out. They all strap on, put on respirators, and they spray a bunch of toxic chemicals over that airplane. Uses about 500 gallons of really, really nasty chemicals, about 4,000 gallons of water, and generates about 30 tons of carbon dioxide per airplane. And it takes about a week and a half to do that. Here's a secret, don't tell Putin. For the past couple of decades, we have funded about 67% of our estimated military sustainment costs every year. So what does that mean? At any point in time, about 1/3 of our aircraft are grounded. This robot removes all of that and saves 60% of the time. That means you can take the same money that you used to spend, get those aircraft flying again. And it means you don't need to build all that environmental protection. It means you can take those people whose lives were actually being endangered doing that work, retrain them and upskill them so you can pay them more money. That solution was not developed by an airplane person. It was developed by a computer software salesman out of the Netherlands. Army Futures had no idea that thing existed. Boeing had no idea that thing existed. It took an entity like the port to be able to find these people, do the matchmaking, build the facilities right there. Because what we have in San Antonio, not just at the port, but in San Antonio, is the ability to take really deep silos of connection and match those up so that you can find some of these solutions. So specifically, the DeLorean company is coming to our campus. It's a nice car, isn't it? I told my wife, I said, my Ford doesn't stock the oil filters for my truck anymore, so I need a new car. She told me I'm not getting a $200,000 car. We're excited about that company not because it's a cool car. They're never going to make a car. They are an engineering company. Somebody is going to manufacture for them. But what they are doing by bringing automotive level scale to technologies that we need in aviation and aerospace, and by aerospace I mean actual space engineering, this opens up a tremendous potential. There are people who are more excited about DeLorean coming to town, more than EDF or greater SATX or the folks downtown, or our military industrial complex because of what this can mean for our, frankly, for the nation. And so we're going to put up this building. We expect that before this year is out, maybe first quarter of next year, we're going to launch about 300,000 square feet of new office. Now, we're a little bit debating on this. There's a meeting, not quite a meeting of the minds. I want this building to be as tall as we can legally build a building, because I want people to see it from all over the place. There are other people that say we can make it really cool with lights, so stand by and see who wins. Taller it goes, the more charming Jimmy was. This is the next thing. That is an electric aircraft. And if you see any UFOs flying around the port, it may be this. This is the future of transportation. I am really, really excited about this. Full disclosure, I sit on the board, the state's Urban Air Mobility Board, so I am not speaking for the state of Texas. There are 2 of these airplanes on our campus from 2 different manufacturers. And what they do is not just fly with electric propulsion. This one, which is a beta, has drone-like blades up here, rotors, so it can lift off vertically. Then those pop down into the actual fairing of the fuselage, and that back propeller moves. The airplane moves silently, it moves efficiently, and it can move in airspace that no traditional fixed wing or rotary aircraft can move in. What they open up is this potential. If you get the right sensors technology, if you get the right computer control, and you get the right regulatory environment on airplanes, then everything that people are talking about with rail or even bus rapid transit is out the window. Because conceivably, you could have 40 or 50 of these airplanes go on demand wherever you need it. And it can go from single places like parking garages or downtown environments to anywhere else that you want in the community. It becomes not a transportation network, but a transportation web. And this is going to change the world. We're not quite sure as to how it's going to change the world yet, but we know it's going to change the world, which is why a project that we're already launching is this. In fact, we've already filed the paperwork on this with the FAA. This will probably be the first vertiport opened anywhere in the world. And what it is, it's an airplane terminal. We can bring fixed wing aircraft into this, but we also have the ability to support these electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. So what we're going to do on our campus is on the airport side, on the aeronautical side, we will have one of these facilities. Elsewhere on the campus, in front of the entertainment center, the Techport Center, in front of the office buildings, we'll have other places where these airplanes can land. That allows everybody to prove up that you can fly these things safely, efficiently, figure out the charging systems. You don't want everybody's airplane to have different kind of charging cables. It would look silly at the airports, right? Make it work, and then what you've proven is that we can make these work worldwide. So expect San Antonio to be the leading facility for electric aircraft. And if you're going to have all these electric vehicles, you got to have power coming from somewhere, right? And it shouldn't be just burning a whole lot of coal on the planet. This, and I'm not allowed to talk about this in Houston, is a lunar landing base. And what this robot is doing is going around and it's grinding basaltic rock. And it takes that basaltic rock and it mixes it up with a plant-based compound, and then it 3D prints out a landing surface and a habitation. And why is it doing that? Because of this. That is a space-based power generation satellite. What it does, and somebody in here who knows science or electricity is going to kill me and say everything I'm saying is wrong, and it probably is. It captures the solar radiation. It converts the solar radiation from electrons to photons, sends those back to Earth using a laser-guided beam, and then on Earth retranslates it back into electrons. And then you have a ton of power generated cleanly, naturally, sustainably. You can bring power anywhere you want. Do you know what the challenge with that is? It's not the technology. If you've been to our arena, you can see all that wireless power transmission going out. We play music with it. It's the cost. See, each of those satellites might be a couple miles wide. The terrestrial antenna might be many miles wide, and you may need 1,000 of them. So you've got to figure out how you can reduce and scale the costs of this to make it feasible. In our country, in the Western world, because we've been so focused upon quarterly profits and making sure that everything works every year, our traditional answer has been, that's not feasible. It's astronomically expensive, we can't do it. What we're finding is if you use the moon and orbital robotics, you might actually be able to make this happen. If you can downscale things like aerospace technologies to even luxury sports car scale, you might be able to make this happen. So when you look at some of the startups on our campus, like Plus One Robotics, which does nothing with robots, They put special sensor arrays, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and supervised autonomy into robots so that the robot can operate in an uncontrolled environment. These are the little pieces that are going to start solving those problems. So the last project that we announced is this, and I'm most excited about this because it's the coolest looking building. That is a massive research facility. The front dome there is just a place where we can simulate a lunar environment, and the robots can operate and people can see it, and it looks pretty cool. That car out front on that street is not just an autonomous vehicle. It's an autonomous vehicle with inductive or even far-field charging capabilities, moving around on something that's probably a variation of a local geopositioning system using public information network nodes. And what that does, we have a massive campus, about 1,900 acres to move people around on. First, it just becomes a way for us to move people around the campus. But as you start to prove up the viability of being able to move people, what this does is becomes a transportation system that can be duplicated in communities all around the country. That building, something we have stolen blatantly from Boeing. You ever go up to the Everett factory and go on the tour? There's going to be all kinds of research going on in that building. Some of it's going to be small contractors that are part of our Center for Defense Innovation with Capital Factory. Some will be coming out of universities, some will be coming out of corporations. We're going to let people take tours and actually see the research in motion. Remember when Universal said, come ride the movies? You're going to come ride the tech. And if it's something real secret, but we don't want a whole lot of secrets, we'll just close the windows so you can't see in. So it'll be another cool facility on the property. But why we're doing it is this. Remember when I told you about those kids who don't believe they can do something? My ask of you, and one thing I absolutely love about this organization, and Al, you know this, is you spread positivity. And I get so tired of the negativity in this country because what we are really telling is our kids that they can't achieve anything. That entertainment center, we are never going to make a penny off of it. And the reason we're not going to make a penny off of it is not because we're not making outrageous amounts of money off of concerts. Before we're done, we are going to get Necrogoblicon there. We have dedicated every single piece of profit that we make from that building to the Kelly Heritage Foundation. And what the Kelly Heritage Foundation does is take children from around the community. Don't care where you come from, don't care what your parents do, don't care what you want to do. And if you're interested, we're going to find a way to give you an opportunity. 4.5 years ago, people laughed at us. Met this guy, David Monroe, acquired all this kind of silly stuff over the years. His wife won't let him keep it in the house. And he stood up the San Antonio Museum of Science and Technology. We put him up for free in the old chapel on the campus. It's about 3,000 square feet. And he started running that little museum and bringing kids by. We have kids doing cyber programs with an agency that may or may not exist, with major companies, rocketry programs with NASA and Boeing. They've done robotics programs with Southwest Research and a host of other companies. I thought I had the thing up here. Almost 80,000 kids have gone through that program in the past 4.5 years. There is a bus that they can take to public housing projects or to more distressed areas where we can actually bring the classroom to those kids. So what we are fundamentally doing here is not trying to make a profit. We are making a profit, but we're going to put that profit right back into the kids. One driving reason for it, it's absolutely the right thing to do. If you bring kids in and you show them they can do something, they're going to achieve amazing things. Two, people said, Jim, this is the stupidest thing your port could ever do. You're going to put yourself right out of business. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm not going to put the slide up because money doesn't matter, but it's important that we say this. Not only is the port tremendously profitable, our top line and bottom line revenues have increased dramatically, almost doubled since we started this strategy. We have so much demand knocking on our door that we are turning people away because we don't have space for them. if the Innovation Center, the Techport Center, works the way it looks like it's going to work, it is going to generate enough money for us to bring in about 1,500 kids a year, 150,000 kids a year through the building, 1,500 kids a year actually being funded through programs. And think about that for a second. If what we have developed is a system where instead of just dumping money into workforce development and education development, you've created a sustainable business model where the money that comes in funds the workforce and education. The workforce and education helps drive an increase in rents and an increase in demand on your facility. That's kind of cool, right? That is actually a business model that works, that's sustainable, and that's scalable. So there it is, 80,000 students engaged by SAMSAT and more. One plug I'm going to give you. The museum portion of the Innovation Center, the Techport Center, is not open yet. It will open on August 12th. On August 11th, because we want to raise a whole bunch of money, we're going to have a big party. And it ain't going to be a cheap party, but y'all are invited. And it will be the opportunity for you to come in before anybody else, fly the simulators, touch the robots, mess with the surgical robots, operate simulators. We'll have some surprises in the arena. We'll have some good food. What we want to do is raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. The port is going to cover every bit of the expenses on that event. Every piece of the admission price is going to go straight to the foundation. I don't know what the IRS is going to say about the deductibility, but we'll handle that. That program, the first program that we are going to launch, we're going to bring a bunch of kids in, anybody who's interested. They're going to learn how to build a computer. They're going to build a computer. They're going to get computer literacy skills, and by golly, we are going to shame some telecommunications company into giving those kids a hotspot they can take home for data. Those kids are going to leave with the computer that they built. A computer that is capable of doing amazing things and being an asset for their entire household. And our hope is that the kids who do that come back. And we want to put them through some more programs, ultimately get them matched up with entrepreneurial opportunities, employment opportunities, or even if they're really good, making $30,000 a month playing video games. So my ask of you, come see it. My other ask, please help me and help with Paco and Adrian and Stephanie and Pat and all the folks, Wendy at the port, Shalom. There's a couple of bands that I really want to see at the center, and I've been told that I can't bring them in. So if, like me, you want to see Party Cannon play San Antonio with the best slam death of all time, send an email to Paco Felici saying, I want Party Cannon in San Antonio. Folks, thank you so much.